All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our Franchise Your Business webinar and podcast series. My name is Tom Dufour. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Skye Franchise Team. And for those of you that are new or just joining us today, this podcast and webinar is really focused on trying to give you practical tips and suggestions and recommendations on building your business, your franchise system, and similar types of activities. Please, as just some housekeeping items, we have our podcast here, Franchise Your Business, that you can subscribe to the podcast there, as well as our second podcast called Multiply Your Success. That's Multiply Your Success. We'd love for you to subscribe to that and greatly appreciate a review and a rating. Those are always helpful. And lastly, our YouTube channel. I know a lot of folks like to listen and subscribe on YouTube. And so for those of you that like to subscribe, we have over 600 podcasts, webinars, pieces of content ready and available for your listening and gaining some wonderful knowledge from listening and learning. That's the word I was looking for. Learning. There we go. Well, for our topic today, I have with us Skye Waterson. Now, Skye is the founder of Unconventional Organization, an international support service for professionals with ADHD. Diagnosed during her PhD after repeated burnout, she's built a business that helps entrepreneurs and executives with ADHD or suspected ADHD build sustainable systems, scale their companies, and actually enjoy the process. Her approach is science-backed, realistic, and built around how ADHD brains actually work. And I'm so excited to have Skye on our live show. We've actually pre-recorded a separate webinar for Multiply Your Success with some different content that'll be coming out shortly. But I was so enthused and loved the content that you had going on that I thought it may be great just to have you on and talk about some other content. So Skye, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm excited as well. I am always a big fan of webinars that are practical, that give away a lot of information. So I'm hoping that for those of you who are listening, this is going to be maybe my goal is always the most practical, the most takeaway knowledge webinar that you have ever done. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and we're going to get your time back because that is a big part of ADHD struggles. That's a part of business struggles in general. So we're going to jump into that, and I'm going to be giving away a ChatGPT little specific one that you can use at the end that will just do it all for you. So we'll show you how it works, and then we'll give you something to make it really fast, make it really easy. So hopefully that sounds good for everyone today.
That sounds fantastic. Can't wait for that. Well, I'll let you take it away then, Skye.
Awesome. Yeah, let me just jump in. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm just going to send a little request to you, Tom. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Perfect. Just because it's a little bit easier for me to remember everything if I have something I can see. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit here about what it means to franchise your business when you or your team struggle with disorganization. And, we can have disorganization, we can call it ADHD symptoms, whatever it is. We know from the research that a lot of people who have businesses also tend to have ADHD. So here are some of the struggles. And if you're like, I wonder if that's me, have a listen, see if this is relevant. Struggles with consistency and follow through. Maybe you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. You have great ideas on a Monday and then on a Wednesday, it's kind of all over. People struggle with identifying the next priority. They wake up, there's 100 things on their list, and this is something we're going to be talking about as well. There's 100 things on their list, and they don't know what to do first. They don't know what order to put things in. That can be a real struggle with ADHD. And if you are running a business, that can obviously be a massive struggle because your to-do list gets massive. There's also missing details in communication. There's a ton of things. There's a lot of people coming at you to say, hey, do you remember this? What's the answer to this? Can you remember this? And you, in the same way, are going, can you remember this? Can you remember that? Like, this is something that a client said. And we're missing those details in communication. Massive struggle. Underestimating how long things will take. We have all been there. We've all set wonderful quarterly goals that turned out to be 2 yearly goals. So this is something that we do all the time. Resisting delegation, and we're going to cover this in more detail today. No systems for delegation. Thinking if I delegate, people are going to see how unorganized my systems are. I'm just going to keep it to myself. I'm just going to do it myself. It's actually easier to do it myself, which, especially if you're doing franchising, is a big struggle that we can have because you need to delegate. And then adding a new exciting idea to an already working system. Sometimes the biggest problem we have is that everything's going really well. But we're like, hey, I'm used to a bit of chaos here. I'm used to a bit of disorganization. Maybe I'm going to throw maybe I'm going to over leverage myself a little bit, add a new thing. I can do that. And then suddenly the system that was working stops working. So these are all, if this is relevant to you, this is sometimes a signal that you might struggle with ADHD symptoms in general. So the thing that we want to really focus on as business owners is, are we going in the right direction and do we have the right people in the right places? Those are the two things that we really want to be thinking about as we go. So this is what I teach. I teach focus, balance, growth. I help people who are overwhelmed, not enough time, inconsistent growth. I help them get focused, get their time back, and get scalable, predictable growth. What we're going to focus on today specifically is these two pieces: building a business you can see and giving away your most frustrating tasks in 5 minutes. Those are the two things that we are going to tackle today and hopefully make your life a little bit less chaotic so that you can scale without the chaos. That is what we always want to be doing. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. Seeing the business. What does it mean to see your business? This is something that I feel like a lot of people don't always get a sense of, but essentially when you're talking with ADHD or even with anything, what will happen a lot is you'll get to a point, and maybe you're there because you're thinking, I want a franchise, and this is usually a good version of this point. And it becomes a little bit difficult to understand what is going on in your business. And I've worked with people who have, $65 million businesses and people who have $100,000 businesses. And it's funny how often this is the same struggle throughout. This idea of, okay, eventually at some point somebody told me to write some SOPs. Maybe I made an organizational chart once. Both of those things are gathering dust. None of them are being updated. I don't really know what's going on. I don't really have a solid understanding of when things are happening or how they're happening. And I definitely don't have a cadence with my team, an easy cadence where we can review them as a team and everyone can see them. It's a bit of a, okay, who can we palm this job off to kind of situation. So SOPs are boring. I'm just going to say it, okay? SOPs, systems and processes docs. Some people love them. I have a team member who loves them, but for most people, they're boring. Would you say that's fair, Tom? Would you say people are usually feeling like it's a little bit boring?
For sure. And there's no doubt. And that's part of the reason a company like ours exists, is because we recognize that for many, documenting processes is not necessarily something they're interested in doing. That's exactly right.
Exactly. 100%. So we love people who make the SOPs. 100%. They're the best. I have someone on my team who does that. And it's really great because what it stops you from doing is feeling like you're driving faster and faster down a highway with the lights off. And you're like, oh, I'm going fast. That's really cool. But I don't know where I'm going. So one of the things that we do, and one of those little ADHD system strategy shifts that we do, is basically figure out, okay, how do we connect SOPs to a system really simply, really easily, that is going to allow you to see what is happening. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to show you a template of what happens, how this works. Basically, at its core, most businesses are a series of fundamentals. Now, obviously, your business is not. Your business is a special snowflake and probably does something very different. But, if we're talking about it, we have things like every, independent business has acquisition. How are people coming into your world? Lead flow. How are they coming to your thing? Sales. And then retention or expansion, if that's an option for you. Can we retain clients? Can we expand on clients? What are we doing there? So, when we're thinking about acquisition, I've worked with business owners when you look at this lead flow and they say, "Oh, we don't have acquisition. We do referrals," which is a fun thing that I love when people say they do referrals because it means we can really scale your business because you're not doing that. So there's things that we can do, but most importantly, for the purposes of this conversation, what we want to do is we want to see who is in charge of these different things, who is responsible, and then we want to see what is the SOP that that person has responsibility for, and then what color would you give them. So I'm going to show
Hmm.
you a real live example of this. And I actually build this on Miro. So I want, I build these out for business owners and other people, and I show people how to build it themselves. You can just make one on Miro. So I'm going to show you what this looks like right now. So this is an example of how simple and how easy it is to plug your SOPs into a process that just makes it easier to see. And I'll talk in a second about how you can get your whole team involved in this in a way that they don't hate, I promise. So, here's an example of this. So you build out a little pipeline. This is obviously a very simple business. Yours is way more complicated. But if we think about it, how are people finding you? Acquisition. They might be doing paid advertising. They might be doing earned media. I'm doing earned media. I'm coming on this podcast right now. And then how do you lead them to the offer, the nurture sequence, sell by chat, initial calls? Is that automated? Is that working with somebody else? All of that process, we want to have that written into a little visual graph so everyone can see it and everyone is kind of on the same page. Now, the key is here, this person, Will, this fictional guy, this guy is responsible for this area. The amount of times that I have worked with a team and they will say, and Tom, tell me if this has happened to you, they'll be like, it's a team effort. We all chip in.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
100%.
and
So,
and,
yeah.
and well, and my point is, I guess where I'm going is, someone will say, yeah, it's a team effort, but then it's like, well, who's in charge of it or responsible for it? Who's assigned to it? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think someone was supposed to be, but I don't know.
100%. And sometimes I was working with a business owner yesterday and there was like 16 guys all doing something. And then it was who was responsible for making sure these 16 guys were all doing it efficiently and actually doing it properly. No one, which meant it was the CEO's responsibility, which meant he was fielding 100 calls a day on something he didn't need to do and was taking up 70% of his time. So this is one of the ways that we go ahead and actually reduce your time is we figure out, well, who's responsible for this stuff? Because it ain't you, it shouldn't be you. When we start out, our name is on every single one of these things, but we don't want that to be the case. We want to start moving
Hmm.
things across. So one of the things that we do here, and this is particular to Miro, which is one of the reasons I like using it, is we can just go ahead and we can insert a link here. And so when I do this with my team, because I use this process with my team, not only does it say this is how we get clients, this is who's responsible, but also we just directly link to the SOP. Whatever it is, whatever SOP system you use, the point is when you come into this pipeline and you say, who's responsible for this system? I need to figure out, okay, well, I'm maybe someone's doing positive feedback. That didn't work out. Who's responsible? Oh, Jacob's responsible. Oh, here's the link to the SOP. Oh, Jacob said that it was green. Green means it's set up and it's working without the CEO and it's generating positive results. Jacob, I don't think it's green. I think we need to change this back to orange. This needs to be something that we're saying, like, we need to discuss in the weekly meeting. This becomes something you can very quickly bring to an all hands meeting where you just go through and go, what's orange, what's red, what's green.
Mm. That is really good. I'm looking at the board as you're kind of going through this, and I really like the color system makes it easy to kind of flow. So at a glance, you can just quickly see, like you said, what's working, what's not, and what's kind of working but needs some attention, and then the full stop. What is not working at all or is really in need of attention.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so what this allows you to do is it allows you to basically take something that is a very boring process in a book. Nobody opens it. and turn it into something that's living. And most importantly, is part of your weekly cadence. Because to bring it back to the ADHD stuff, if it's not part of your weekly cadence that you're going to look at this, it's in the meeting doc, every week. You're not going to be accountable. They're not going to be accountable. This is something that you need to have as a team. So this is the first thing that I recommend people do when they're looking at how to get their time back is they have to actually see who's responsible for what, where is it going, especially as you start to scale, because these things will start to get lost. And I've seen a lot of businesses, especially businesses with ADHD, that will just drop, the lead flow. And they'll be like, God, these metrics are terrible. I have no idea why. And it's actually, if you come in here, you'd be like, well, that's because no one is doing this little piece here between part A and part C. And, B is pretty crucial because otherwise no one is coming through our process. So these are the things that help just keep things simple, make them a little bit easier when you have an ADHD brain and you're trying to grow.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. So I know you had given early on, and sorry if I'm going to interrupt part of your presentation
Yeah, go
here,
for it.
but I know early on you had kind of given some indicators of what some of those checklist items to evaluate. Say, maybe you have ADHD, maybe you have ADHD symptoms. So for someone who
Mm-hmm.
maybe is unaware if they have this, when someone goes to implement this, have you found that if they are already aware that they have ADHD, that this goes a little bit better? Or if someone just is maybe aware of having some of the symptoms, or does it really matter in terms of seeing this implementation and getting through it?
Yeah, what I've found, and this is actually a good question. I've worked with organizations like the New Zealand government, for example, supporting their managers with ADHD and their team with ADHD. What they've found, what I've found when I talk to them is they tend to go like, oh, well, this would be helpful for everybody, and that's usually the energy that we bring to it. When you have ADHD symptoms, you tend to be a little bit more disorganized, a little bit more, you struggle with working memory, you need a little bit more guardrails around that stuff. You're also probably a little bit better at problem solving and getting yourself out of a tight patch. But everybody on the team benefits from having these kinds of systems in place because we all struggle with, really exhausted Fridays. We drop the ball on Mondays. And so having these systems just means that you're bringing the whole organization's, executive functioning struggles essentially down to a level where everybody's doing it. Some people are nailing it. And then some people are like, well, I actually like the big SOP doc. And those people are great. And we give them the job of organizing the SOPs.
Oh, that's fantastic. And have you noticed, I'm just curious as I'm thinking about this with some of these symptoms, and I really like the topic here, which is why I wanted you on
Hmm.
to have more, not that our other interview is fantastic, and I hope everyone listens
Hmm.
in, and we'll include show links once that goes live. But I'm thinking of, have you noticed any change or impact, or is there any research out there on the use of social media and the short term, how it's just, swiping and moving, and there's always short little videos, and these
Mm-mm-mm.
ADHD type symptoms. Do you know what I mean? Like inability to
Yeah,
kind of get
yeah.
focused on this kind of stuff. And it just kind of got me thinking about it as I was listening to you describe that. I was like, I wonder if there could also be some cultural components to it that impacts it, that makes
Yeah.
us even more valuable, not just to ADHD, but
Yeah.
to a broader swath of people.
Yeah, well, I think we do think about things differently. I mean, this conversation comes up a lot, and I've definitely been asked this question a lot. There's, the conversations around how much our attention is now in demand. Our attention is a commodity. It's something that a lot of people want and we need, especially if we're trying to run a business. If you have ADHD, this can be even harder, and we need to talk about systems to help you stay focused and stay connected. But even if you don't, like, we're definitely living through a period of time where people are struggling to focus. So anything that you can do to stay connected. I would say maybe the difference, if we were to think about it, and obviously you should get diagnosed with ADHD before that's how you know you have ADHD. But the difference might be that for somebody who doesn't have ADHD, they're like, right, I'm going to turn my phone off and then they turn it off. And then if you have ADHD, you're like, right, I'm going to turn my phone off. And then 3 to 10 hours later, they're like, damn, that didn't happen.
Okay. Well, that small little example actually says a lot. I mean, that is actually very helpful to help kind of understand some of the difference there. So that's really, really good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump back into it because this is the next question that happens is okay, I'm seeing the business now, which is cool. So I can see like who's in charge of what SOP is linked, who, does that person think that they're doing a good job? It's green or it's orange or it's red and like what's broken. But then the next thing we have is a problem where for a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, well, my name is here and my name is here. And again, like I said, I work with people who make $22 million in business and people who make $100,000 in business. And they're all like, oh, well, I'll just put my name there. It's just easier if I do it. So this becomes a problem with delegation. And there's a couple of reasons you can struggle with delegation with ADHD symptoms. One is you just don't want to go through the problem of explaining to somebody how to do it. It's super boring. Somebody said, you have to film a video and then you're like distracted while you're filming the video and the video is like an hour long. I've done that before, which is why I always struggle with delegation. So what we want to do is we want a really simple system. And this is what I'm going to teach you guys today, how to delegate without ever doing the task and doing anything related to the task outside of answering questions. That's it. That is how you delegate and empowering your team while you do it. Because we want to empower your team. We don't want to like give them a micromanagey list of things and make them feel like they don't get to figure out their business themselves. So in terms of delegation, we want to go, okay, what is working for you with delegation? What's not working? And then, how do you delegate by empowering to your team? We're going to go through what I call the leadership loop, which is you thinking of something, you using AI to write it, or in my case, you're going to use the GPT that I've made you, and then giving it to your team. So I'm going to go through the steps of how this works, and then I'm just going to give you the GPT so that you can use that. And it's going to be super simple. You can do it in 5 minutes between meetings, which is really the time that we have to do these kinds of things. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to go ahead and you want to talk to your favorite AI system, hit the video, hit the audio record and say, hey, I want to delegate this task. There's specific ways that I recommend you delegate things. What is the North Star? What is the recipe? What is the checklist? The GPT I'll give you does that naturally for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But it's very much going through and saying, okay, I don't want to do this task. I don't want to do it ever again. This is what it is. For me at the moment, I'm trying to delegate emails. I love writing newsletters, don't like formatting emails. So I'm trying to go, okay, let's delegate that task. It's in MailerLite, it's in this system. We want to set this up, et cetera, et cetera. So you just talk to your AI and you can get things wrong and you can go, oh, actually, if you go back to the first piece, it says this and I forgot this. And then let it organize your brain. You don't have to organize your brain unless you want to in this particular instance. So let it organize your brain. These are the first things that you want to do. The second thing, this is really, really crucial. I've seen a lot of people fall apart at this stage. Do not, and I see you, do not take that doc that it spits out, put it in a file and say, I'll organize it later. I'll organize it later. And then once it's organized, I'll bring it to the person.
Wait a minute, Skye. I thought that's how I'm supposed to do this. I do that all the time. Come on, that's not the right way to do this. What?
That's how plans and delegation goes to die because you never come back. You never come back to that. You have the energy to do it now. So what I recommend you do, and if you use the GPT, it'll actually spit out a little message that you can send directly to the person. Go to the place where you communicate with that person and just put in a little message. And like I said, the GPT will do it for you that says, hey, this is AI. I want to delegate this task to you. Like full disclosure, this is just an AI version of the task. Can you please go through this list, try and do the task, and then book a meeting with me, come back with any questions. Now, there's 2 reasons we do this, and it's more subtle than you think. Number one is if you're in a position where you say, this is AI, then they're going to go through this list with a more critical eye. If you said, this is my list, I spent hours on it, it's basically ordained by God, they're just going to go, okay, Tom, like, I know what you're doing. Like, I'm going to go through this thing. And sometimes they're going to spot some stuff that, shouldn't be the way things are. And so what it allows them to do is it allows them to actually engage with this task that they're going to take on as if it's something that they can critique and they can build on, which is really important if you want someone to take ownership of a task. So number one, you don't have to write out a whole doc. You can have mistakes. It can hallucinate something, and that's totally fine. Number two, they're actually going to care about the list and like look at it properly and critically and not just blindly do something that's completely wrong because you didn't realize on page 3 there was a bit that doesn't make sense. And then the next thing that they're going to do is they're going to book a meeting with you. And if you have an EA, and that's a whole different conversation, then they'll book it through your EA. They have a meeting with you. They record that meeting. Your job is just to sit there for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it needs to be, and say, yeah, that makes sense. Or, yeah, let me give you access to that thing. The only thing you do is you give them access to stuff that they need if that's something you have responsibility for. Everything else is just you answering their questions. And I can tell you this because I've done it before. There'll be times when they say, it doesn't make sense that we do it like this. I feel like the AI got this wrong. Should we do it in a different way? And you'll be like, yeah, the AI got that wrong. And it's not the AI, it's you. But, they have a cool way to do it. So that's totally fine. And by the end, they have a task list that they're happy with, you're happy with. You just had a 15, 20-minute meeting. That's it. You kept your hands in your pockets. You didn't write anything down. And then from there, they go away, they update the systems and doc, the SOP doc. And now this is their responsibility. That's what goes on the pipeline.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I like the process. I like the approach, and the feedback from the team member is really great to have them, go out, have him or
Hmm.
her go out and do it and make it happen and try it, test it, and give you feedback on it. I really like that. That's a great approach.
Yeah. It means that by the time you've finished, that is not only can you say this is your baseline, this is like what I expect every time, but also they feel a sense of ownership towards it. And this is something that's really hard to do when delegating tasks is you might care about the task. And I work with a lot of guys who work in the trades and they have to delegate, and it can be really hard because they're like, no one does it like me. No one understands how to build a house in this particular way with this particular system like me. And a lot of people feel that way. So having a system where you can, without taking up a lot of your time and energy, engage with them so that
Mm.
at the end of it, they feel empowered and you feel like they care about the task is a real great just booster for your team in general.
Oh, that's really, really great. Well, Skye, what else is on your topics here? I want to make sure we have keep that moving for you here, and I don't want to keep
Well,
interrupting.
no, you're all good. Well, like I said to you guys, I'm gonna drop a link here, and I'm sure
Okay.
they'll be in the show notes as well. This is a little GBT that you can use. You do have to have ChatGPT, and basically, what it'll do is you just need to have it on your phone, click it, start it, say, this thing is annoying me. I want to take this thing off my task list. And then it will do that. It will take the things off your task list. It will write the little blurb, hey, this is AI and da da da. Can you please have a meeting with me? And then it will write the whole checklist as well. So you don't have to do anything. And that's basically, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a full circle. I really wanted to provide the value today where you could go from,
Mm.
okay, I'm in chaos. I don't know. I have systems and processes. They're kind of everywhere. I don't know where they're going, and end up in a position where you can see everything, your team can see everything, and you're delegating tasks. Because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to get your time back when you're a business owner. Like we can talk focus, we can talk prioritization, and we do. We talk about it on the podcast,
Yep.
but you need to know how to do it with your team as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Skye, this is fantastic. How can people find out more about you if they say, "Wow, I like this"? Certainly, we'll include the ChatGPT link that you described. But how can people reach out, get in touch, and have you support them?
Yeah, you can find me at Unconventional Organization. That's where my program is. So we do the Focus Balance Growth Program, which I just showed you a few pieces of today. We take you through a process of getting unstuck and growing consistently your revenue when you struggle with ADHD symptoms. You don't have to be diagnosed. It's totally fine if you just feel like you resonate. And you can also find me on my own podcast, the ADHD Skills Lab, where we go through a lot of these strategies. So yeah, great to have you.
Perfect. Yeah, great. And so that's unconventionalorganization.com. And for our American
Mhm.
audience, it looks like it's organization with an S, not a Z. And and then for our the podcast, give that podcast again, and we'll make sure we include that link.
Yeah, it's called the ADHD Skills Lab. And I will say you can use an S or a Z for
Oh,
unconventional organization.
great.
Most of our clients are in the US, so we
Okay,
changed it.
perfect. Okay, great. I just was looking at my notes here and I wasn't sure. So, okay, great. Perfect. Okay. Well, this sounds great, Skye. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and for all of those that end up tuning in, check out our organization. We'll include the ChatGPT link as well as a link back. And so grateful for you to be here and to participate. We'll have this live and up and loaded here shortly for our guests to watch and share. And so grateful. Thank you so much for your time today.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.